And it's important also note it's not always a draw when you have opposition. If that same endgame occurred with the pawns pushed one rank further, it didn't matter that black would have gotten the opposition because actually you would still lose. So like you would have to be a little careful the way you do it. I mean, you have to like there are ways where the opposition on the last rank somehow sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, right? So we have to just make sure of that.
We're making sure that all of you watching don't lose that king and pawn ending. You're welcome. You're welcome, world. And there are a lot more tricks in those positions than you think. That is the main takeaway. All right. Denis Lazavik puts the knight on b5. Hans Niemann castles because we had a fork coming to c7. What an interesting game. We've got a bishop pair for white. We had a Slav defense turned into some sort of weird looking Verisov type of deal. What do you think?
What actually was the opening? We were talking about the endgame.
It was a Slav defense, but then the move order got weird with the queens coming off the board, and for a second I thought we were in like a Verisov, but we were not. Black parts ways with the bishop pair to double white's pawns, and now we have dark squares that Lazavik is going to try to keep attacking here.
Yeah. So Lazavik is a perennial d4 player. I mean, he will play d4. I think if you offered him $1 million to switch openings, he would not even do it. He plays knight f3, d4 basically all the time, and he's a g3 player as well. He likes these Catalan positions. So it's curious that Hans is going for Slav, that he is trying to play in a way that neutralizes that type of g3 setup, which is good, which means that when Denis is white, I think we're going to get very imbalanced games. And here we have one, right? I mean, white has bishop pair, lost castling rights, total imbalance. Swiss cheese pawn structure. White is slightly better due to the bishop pair according to Stockfish, but I have no idea how he's going to convert his advantage here or promote it forward.
Well, and there's all kinds of okay, the bishop defends the rook. Okay, important tactics. I was just about to say there's all kinds of weird things going on. Black has control of the light squares. There's even this weird knight coming to b3 threat because the point, everybody, is the pawn was pinned to the rook. So knight to b3 was a threat there from Hans. You can't take it, and you would have to move the rook and then allow black to capture the pawn. So that is exactly why Lazavik played this b3 move. Now the bishop defends the rook, so there are no tactics with knight b3.
This is a very messy position. Lazavik is going to have to figure out where his king is going to go. So he is going to get into significant time trouble. I think this is actually a perfect weapon for 3+1, because at this point you would have 3 to 2 minutes, and now you're below 2 minutes in that format, right? So actually, technically he would be below 1 minute, right? Because he spent 2 minutes already. It goes knight d4. It's already a mistake. But what do you do? Maybe you have like an e5 pawn sacrifice, like e5, knight c6, bc, take. Does black get in with the rook somehow? Because Danny, I'm smelling blood. Like I'm just gonna say it feels very dangerous here for white.
I agree, and let's analyze what I think. You're right. I think that e5 is the idea, and even at the end of these lines, if everything takes and white tries to go pawn grabbing, this is dangerous stuff because black is just. I think black is just. Putting a rook on. I don't know which rook.
Yeah.
I kind of like keeping this rook here, but it's just something where you just keep attacking the center, and I don't know. This is very dangerous. You called it. Denis Lazavik's king is not getting to safety for the rest of this game. You can't castle long, everybody, because a2 falls. You can't move the rook because a2 falls. So Hans is slowing down. I think measuring the position correctly, although he does maybe not see the most aggressive way forward.
But again, this feels like early match behavior. In the 5+1, you generally don't want to take so much risk because the other guy has so much time to defend his position, and e5 might still be the best move at some point, right?
Yeah.
But he's really playing it slow.
No, it's true, and I like that call out because we talk about match strategy in terms of openings. You're sort of poking and prodding early on in the 5-minute portion to see what you might want to use when the time controls get faster. Sometimes we can just see other types of slower or fast starts for different reasons, but actually deliberately realizing that maybe you don't want to mix it up. You kind of objectively know that most positions are close to equal. These players study enough with computers that you kind of always have that computer eval in your head. You know that you're probably not winning. So I like that just from a a perspective of managing your nerves if you're Hans Niemann. He's being solid. I think objectively, Black can get a little more aggressive here, but he starts with this move, bishop d3, and Denis Lazavik is still almost a minute down on time.
Hans famously said in a video review of my games that I try to force my advantages from better positions instead of just improving. That's what he's doing here. You know, he's taking absolutely zero risk. His position is very, very stable. But to win the match, you're going to have to take some risk. And Lazavik is the type of player you have to take risk against because he is not going to take the risk.
Yeah.
And it's just
Very
game
solid.
2. But
yep,
as we progress, yeah, Hans will take more liberties.
What you call it? Lazavik has the system he likes to keep to with d4, knight f3, so everyone should expect that when he's white. He also has a style, which is, it's a little Wesley So-ish. He plays just very solid, doesn't take a lot of risk, very rarely beats himself. This was a mistake here, although despite the computer being harsh on it, I don't know if it's a huge one yet. I like this move from Hans, not allowing the rook ending. Get the knight out. Now you're preparing both c5 and e5, and I like Black's chances here.
It's a second endgame in a row. It's a second endgame in a row. Knight versus bishop. Same thing.
There we go. Is that going to be the theme of the day? We'll find out.
Yeah, maybe Hans likes his knight endgames. I still really prefer Black's position, but maybe now's a very big moment here. You can get a knight to e4. Do you go f5 or do you play fg? Okay, goes check, but what's he going to do next? The big question. F5, Danny?
Yeah.
Feels right.
I mean, my voice also gets higher when I'm not sure. I don't know. F5 or take a... You don't really want to get the rook involved. I think the rook and bishop having a fun time on g7 is not what Black wants. So I would predict f5. Or I wish I could just go for something right away, something tactically. Even c5 and d4 was something I was thinking about, by the way, just to keep the bishop out. Although if you do that, I think maybe Lazavik will just go to the rook ending and try to hold.
Yeah, but that's such an imbalanced rook endgame. So Hans Hans now down on time. He's been up as much as a minute in this game. He's really buckling in. If you play f5, you have to worry about the h-pawn coming up the board. That's it. I would be really scared of h4, h5, g6.
Yep.
But I'm terrible at chess, and Hans is much better than me. So, okay.
Well, no, I agree with you. That's the clear plan, regardless of whether you're terrible and Hans is better. I think you're seeing it correctly, that if you play f5, Denis is already showing this is his plan. He's playing h5 and g5 because you have a 2-on-1 majority over there in the corner, and this bishop is a beast helping the pawns advance. So this is now already back to equal, because the truth is Denis, for his part, has gotten his pawns going faster than Hans has.
I still... much prefer Black's position. I would love to. I wish we had Magnus on speed dial. I'd be like, Magnus, who has the better chances here? I just want to know, like, what are the heuristics of an endgame like this? Vocab word for the audience. Like, is the knight better? Are the black pawns stronger than white's pawns? White can play a4 and get an outside pass pawn. What's better here? This is an insane endgame.
Now we've got two passers coming, and whether you play a4 or not, if Black gets C and D pawns running up the board, the more I look at it, the more I still greatly favor Hans's position as well. I agree with you. This is a harder position to play white, especially because these pawns have been kind of held. I think actually keeping the tension was very smart by Hans, not letting white know what you want to do, and that makes it harder to advance. Okay, the A pawn is targeted.
Does
what's the idea of b4?
Yeah, b4 here. Wow.
B4, the computer, the eval went up, so I was just like having to guess a move, but b4 undermines the d4 pawn protection, and Denis finds it.
Yeah, he's very clutch at these little subtle pawn moves, and rook d4 will come with tempo. Hans had to play b4 himself, I think, and he didn't, and now Denis is back in the game.
Yeah, b4 was a great find. The c pawn is undermined. It's not like Black's position is losing necessarily, but the structure collapsing makes it a lot easier to defend. And this bishop, by the way, it is developed where it sits on c1 because it's defending not just the a pawn, but the rook from getting in the game.
Man, what does Denis go for now? Do you play pawn to h5? Because there's so much tension. You don't want to take any of the pawns, but there might be now tactics on bc5 and the rook can... Yeah. Danny, let's just watch. I'm not going to predict anything. This is crazy.
This is going to become a scramble. Both sides now under 20 seconds or close to it.
Oh, he had c4. He could have connected. 95. There was 95 there. Am I crazy? What is going on?
I don't even know how c4 worked. You saw it faster than I could, but all right, now Denis is back in control.
No, there was a knight e5 check tactic, I think. Unless I'm like losing my mind.
Okay, Black had a discovered tactic on the rook. He misses it. Now the rook and bishop probably are better than the rook and knight because the play is opening up.
Yeah, I mean, I had 2 seconds to look at it. I have no idea, and it's likely gonna be another draw here because you're gonna get to the bishop,
I don't
and
know.
it's gonna be a rook in game.
I don't know, dude. Rook f6 is coming. There's mating nets here for Hans. The bishop and rook are having a party at the Black King's expense. This is very dangerous, I think.
But king g8, king g8, king g7, I think you're always safe.
Okay, maybe now you have to take the perpetual. By the way, rook h1 is checkmate, by the way. So
yeah,
I think Denis has to take the draw. Okay,
yeah,
he does take the draw because he doesn't want to get mated. Oh my gosh. Okay, hey, we're going to have